Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. We now know who's going to be boxing on the undercard of the upcoming Lauren Price versus Natasha Jonas fight. It would seem that Ben Shalom has snagged another amateur standout for his roster, Cindy Ngamba. Heard a lot about her during the last games, and she will be making her professional debut on this undercard. Caroline Dubois will be defending her WBC title against an opponent that has yet to be announced. Don't know who. Of course, the fight that I think has a lot of people's attention, and the fight that has the most potential to steal the show on this entire undercard, the Caris Artingstall versus Raven Chapman fight. That wasn't on my bingo card. Scheduled for 10 rounds in the women's featherweight division, Raven Chapman, who's still coming off that lopsided loss to Sky Nicholson, has signed herself up for yet another tough fight. She'll be facing amateur standout Olympian Caris Artingstall. A legitimate question: is Frank cashing out Raven Chapman on Ben Shalom's show, putting her in a tough fight so soon after her first professional loss? And I would agree, except it's not Frank Warren in Queensbury doing it. It's a boxer's show. Raven is under no obligation to face Caris Artingstall, so if she's doing it, it's because her and her team want to.
Why?
So likely the money. Money is the motivator that Ben Shalom likely offered Raven a nice size purse to box on this show against Caris, who I like to think of as the evil version of Sky Nicholson, the mean one, the spiteful one, sporting a professional record of 6 wins with no losses, no draws, 1 recorded knockout. Don't let that 1 knockout fool you. She's heavy-handed, and her power is coming along. It's just that those eggs need more bacon. The opposite of Sky Nicholson, where Sky is an outside mover, an outside boxer who's not big on power. Caris is, but she's aggressive. Spiteful. She's a southpaw, like Sky Nicholson is a southpaw, but where Sky spends the entire fight fighting long range, Caris is more likely to close the distance, step into her punches, try to hurt her opponent. She'll be facing Raven, sports professional record of 9 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 2 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 10 professional bouts. Raven is the more experienced fighter of the two, though not by much. Just a few fights. It's still more than Caris has. She saw action 2 times last year, once in July, then again in October. The loss to Sky. Still slim pickings. This is a boxer show. Caris Artingstall is a boxer fighter. If the rounds are close and competitive, who do you think is going to get consideration? The money might have been what motivated Raven to take this fight so soon after her professional loss, but it's not without its drawbacks. It's drawbacks for Raven. And there is at least one glaring drawback for Caris. Drawback there for her too. Caris hasn't boxed in a year. The last time she saw action was in January of last year opposite the ring Leila Furtado, who she beat over 8 rounds to win a points decision. I don't know why Ben didn't get her a fight after that. I don't know what's going on. An amateur standout, an Olympian like Caris Artingstall being so sparsely active. What happened? She had a very productive year the year before that. In 2023, she boxed 3 times, but in 2024, she only saw action once. And there is a question as to why that is. I get the sense they're fighting Raven to make up for lost time. Because Raven Chapman was just in there with Sky Nicholson on what was a very big show, Caris and her team and Ben hoped to siphon off some of that attention for themselves by fighting that same Raven Chapman, albeit off a very long layoff. That's to make up for lost time. That's why. Which means they're very confident. They must like their chances to face Raven under these circumstances.
Not what I expected.
Wasn't on my bingo card. I figured that either Raven or Caris would target Nina Menka for her newly obtained IBF title. I expected that one of them would be fighting her.
The way it is, Sky Nicholson's fighting Tiara Brown, Caris and Raven are fighting each other.
So Nina's just kind of out there in limbo. I like the fight between Caris and Raven, but it's a bit ahead of schedule for me. I would have actually preferred to see one of them fight Nina for that IBF, then defend it against the other. That would have been my preferred sequence for this fight, which promises to have a pleasing aesthetic because Raven is a very aggressive fighter, and so is Caris.
It'll be fun.
Though it does feel a bit rushed, and I think it's because of what I stated, that Caris and her team are trying to make up for lost time by fighting somebody who's actually good.
They want to hit the ground running this year.
Who wins the fight?
It's a tough call because they're both supremely talented. And even if Raven struggled with Sky in her last fight, Caris doesn't fight like Sky.
All the things that gave Raven so many problems in her last fight aren't necessarily in play in this one, so she might stand a better chance.
Talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches.
Men's welterweight news, more insights into the collapse of the Isaac Cruz versus Ryan Garcia fight that fell through again. Isaac didn't want any distractions from a Ryan Garcia fight until he settles up with Angel Fierro early next month on the 1st. Isaac Pitbull Cruz believed that agreeing to a major fight against Ryan Garcia with another bout yet to be fought was bad luck, so he withdrew from the golden opportunity, according to Cruz's advisor, Sean Gibbons. Gibbons spoke to Boxing Scene hours after boxing financier Turkey LL Sheikh reported that Garcia will instead fight former 140-pound champion Rolly Romero in early May, instead of Cruz, on a card sources say is pointed to New York City's Times Square. Isaac Pitbull Cruz would absolutely love to fight Ryan Garcia, but with the timing of this coming bout, as Pitbull is scheduled to fight February 1st, he didn't feel comfortable negotiating another fight. And turning his attention to that fight, too, it was bad luck. In his eyes, Gibbons said, Cruz, 26-3 with 1 draw, 18 knockouts, defeated Rolly Romero, 16-2 with 13 knockouts, by way of an 8th-round TKO for the WBA Super Lightweight title on March 30th. Cruz lost that belt to Jose Rayo Valenzuela on August 3rd. He meets Mexican countryman and action fighter Angel Fierro, 23-2 with 2 draws, 18 knockouts, on the February 1st pay-per-view card, streaming on Amazon Prime Video and payperview.com, headlined by the light heavyweight battle of the unbeatens David Benavidez and David Morrell at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. Bad luck to him. He saw Jaime Munguia take a December fight when he had bigger fights waiting for him against guys like Edgar Berlanga and Caleb Plant, and Munguia got knocked out, Gibbons said. You need to concentrate on what's in front of you. So Pitbull let us know that, unfortunately, due to the timing, he has to wait after this first fight. After that, he's happy to discuss all the details because, again, it's a fact that he believes he would knock Ryan Garcia dead.
Is that why he's walked away 2 times from fights with him?
Garcia meets Romero years after the pair flirted with the idea of fighting as proteges of long bitter rivals Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather. Romero returned from his Cruz loss to defeat Manuel Jaimes by a unanimous decision in September, and he's remained busy in his Vegas gym, ready for whatever assignment emerged.
He's lucky because I don't think the PBC would have got him out for months, if at all, this year.
LL Sheik's New York card will also include Garcia's bitter rival and former 2-division champion Devin Haney against former unified super lightweight champion Jose Ramirez in another welterweight bout, while heavyweight Martin Bacoli will meet F.A. Ajagba in a title eliminator. Gibbons said he explained Cruz's logic to LL Sheik's events company Sella, and they understood and will revisit this again in the future, so it's not a complete loss.
Unless he loses to Angel Fierro. Then it is.
Gibbons indicated the card could be staged on May 2nd, the traditional Cinco de Mayo weekend that has been the boxing domain of Mexico's superstar Canelo Alvarez. It's just bad timing, Gibbons said. We're going to now turn our attention to step 1 with Angel Fierro, which is not an easy fight. It'd be kind of disrespectful for Pitbull, knowing the history of this in boxing, to look forward to another fight and turn the other guy into a tune-up.
Fighters such as Terry Norris and Tommy Morrison have blown greater paydays by accepting an interim fight and then losing.
All of a sudden, that other fight is in the back of their mind, and they lose focus, Gibbons said. It is true. You don't want to put the cart before the horse. You signed on to fight Angel Fierro first, so that's what you need to focus on. But it starts to look a certain way when it's the second time.
This is the second time he's walked away from a fight with Ryan. The first was something like 2 years ago when Oscar offered him a cool $1 million to fight Ryan, right after his loss to Gervonta. He didn't take the fight then, he's not taking it now.
Gibbons said Isaac Cruz is an intelligent fighter. He wants to focus on one opponent, Angel Fierro. He has nothing on his mind other than February 1st. Yes, he can talk about Ryan and Gervonta, as he's done, but signing for the actual fight, that's risking losing focus. That's it. That's how this went down. Gibbons said he wasn't moved to talk to Cruz out of it. It's like what your grandmother used to say, don't count your chickens before they've hatched. Everything's back on the table after the Fierro fight, but why take your eye off of it to start talking about things coming up? You want to paint Fierro as a gimme? That's when you get beat, Gibbons said. It's just the right decision. If he had agreed to this fight with Ryan, what's Angel Fierro thinking? Aha, okay. You disrespected me. You think I'm easy. I'm coming to whoop your ass, and I'll be the one fighting Ryan Garcia. Gibbons said Cruz's promoter, PBC, did not meddle in the situation.
In his decision.
But the idea that you're gonna make it past Angel Fierro and then restart talks with Ryan, it doesn't work like that. Ryan, if he beats Rolly, he's moving right into a rematch with Devin.
Could be a trilogy.
So this still qualifies as a missed opportunity for Isaac Cruz to make a substantial amount of money. And I understand his rationale, but it is what it is.
He missed out.
Because he did. While he's off the table for Ryan, at least momentarily, he might be back on the table for Gervonta Davis. So if he beats Lamont Roach,
he's gonna need somebody to fight. Isaac will be available, so maybe they do a rematch between them. Wouldn't be the first time the PBC delivered a rematch that nobody was really asking for.
Though what you'll find on a long enough timeline is that the gory details, the particulars, are often lost.
And all you're left with is a baseline of what happened. And the baseline is, they tried to make the fight with Ryan and Isaac 2 times, and both times, Isaac's the one that didn't want it. He might have had his reasons.
Same difference. Isaac is the one that walked away. Isaac is the one that didn't want it. And finally, a story that I think took the entire boxing world by surprise, revealed. Aussie in blockbuster fight against U.S. superstar whose only loss is to Manny Pacquiao. They're talking about Keith Thurman. Former unified welterweight champion Keith Thurman. Australia's Jock Jarvis has landed a huge down-under blockbuster against brash American superstar Keith Thurman.
I'm gonna try not to throw up in my own mouth while they keep calling Keith a superstar.
The man who only a few months ago was shouting for Tim Tszyu to sign the paperwork, baby. In a massive coup for promoters, No Limit, Fox Sports Australia can reveal Jarvis will headline a shock Sydney showcase on March 12th against Thurman, the former unified welterweight king who has never lost to anybody not named Manny Pacquiao. A press conference which will be held on Wednesday to reveal details of an event which is set to take place inside Sydney's famed Hordern Pavilion will also feature separate bouts involving Michael Zarafa and Matteo Tapia. It is understood Zarafa will face German middleweight Basir I, 19-1, as part of his continuing push for a shot at Tim Tszyu later this year. The surprise Sydney fight announcement comes almost a year to the day since the American dubbed One Time was set to headline a Las Vegas showcase against Tszyu, while a bicep injury would eventually force Thurman to withdraw, just 11 days out from the event, and begin a torrid run of luck for the Sydney Sider dubbed the Soul Taker. The pair were still jawing as recently as October prior to Tszyu's world title fight against IBF champion Bakram Murtazaliev, yet in a surprise twist, Thurman is now headed down under to face Jarvis, who has long been rated among the nation's most exciting prospects. Despite once being hailed a genuine world title contender at Super Feather, the fighter trained by Hall of Famer Jeff Fennick has spent the best part of 2 years readying to make his name 4 divisions heavier at Super Welterweight. Now he gets to do just that against an international superstar.
No, I don't think Keith Thurman has been a superstar in the sport of boxing since 2017, maybe 2018.
He lost the belt to Manny in 2019. While it has been almost 3 years since Thurman's last fight, a win over Mario Barrios, his impressive resume boasts a host of big-name scalps, including Sean Porter and Danny Garcia, the latter of whom he beat in 2017 to claim both the WBA and WBC titles. Jarvis, meanwhile, has made his own hyped comeback to the ring just before Christmas, earning a convincing stoppage against Adrian Rodriguez. Immediately afterwards, the 26-year-old called out Nikita Tszyu to be his first fight of this year. However, his promoters have instead handed a rival who has dropped just one of his 31 appearances.
Against Manny Pacquiao in 2019.
Now, should Brock Jarvis go and beat Thurman in March, he could potentially go straight into an all-Aussie blockbuster against the elder Tszyu sibling, Tim Tszyu. Of course, the shock headliner also suggests there remains hope of a match between Thurman and Tszyu should the American win, with the pair making plenty of headlines when their initial showdown was announced for the world's fight capital in 2024. Yet instead, Thurman was forced to withdraw less than a fortnight out from the event, with towering American southpaw Sebastian Fundora parachuting in as a replacement. Apart from extending Thurman's time out of the ring, the untimely event also began a horror run for Tszyu, who subsequently dropped consecutive world title fights to both Fundora and then Murtazaliev in October. Ironically, it was just days out from that second title fight in Orlando, Florida, when Tszyu and Thurman again crossed paths, exchanging pleasantries. Working the event as a TV analyst, the American ignited an entertaining exchange after crossing paths with the challenger as he arrived for the ceremonial weigh-ins alongside his team. Close to a year ago, when I heard news that Tim Tszyu would be traveling to America for a Keith Thurman fight, I thought to myself, that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense at all. Never mind what Keith Thurman used to be, because you can only sell a fight with him for what he is, and what he is at this point is a quasi-retired fighter. More so now.
All these months later, one fight in the last 4 going on 5 years, folks. That's how it breaks down.
Money situation must have become desperate for Keith Thurman that he is now traveling to Australia.
Who would have thought?
They say that he only ever lost to one fighter. He only ever lost to Manny Pacquiao. But you know that if he would have been active the last 2 going on 3 years, he likely would have lost more times than that. That if Keith Thurman only has 1 loss in the column, it's because the man barely fights.
Barely a fighter at this point.
After the loss to Manny Pacquiao, he took 2 years off. Comes back in February of 2022, takes 2 more years off after that, close to 3.
It'll be 3 next month.
Brock Jarvis' last fight was basically a middleweight contest. I take it that the fight with Keith will be fought at junior middle.
What do you think they're offering Keith for this fight?
Well, it's a big fight in Australia. It may not seem like much to me and you, but in the land down under, this is a decent-sized fight.
Doc Bravis has a buzz going.
So in the build-up of the fight and all those press conferences, it will seem quite awkward to see Keith Thurman coming in as the away fighter.
It's not what we're used to. Not what he's used to.
Well, for 3-year layoff, so let's just call it what it is. Keith is a gatekeeper at this point, a stepping stone for younger, fresher fighters that want to advance to the next stage in their careers. That's what he's reduced to. That's what he is.
And that is what all of this accents.